So this problem says AT&T has a prepaid cell phone policy that costs $10 for unlimited calls and texts and $2.50 for each gig of data used. So our job is to represent the relationship between the number of gigs of data and the cost of the plan for the month. So the first thing that we should do is we should actually highlight the important information. So I can see that it costs $10 for unlimited calls and texts, and it's $2.50 for each gig of data used. And I always like to highlight also what I'm trying to do. So I'm going to talk about the relationship between the number of gigs of data and the cost of the plan for the month. Okay, so my favorite place to start is to actually identify the variables that I'm talking about. So the variables are always going to be this stuff in the last sentence. So I'm going to start by saying number of gigs of data is what I need. So let me zoom out of this. And so the first variable we're going to do is number of gigs of data. So number of gigs of data. And I got to pick a letter for that. And so I could pick X and Y, or I could use letters that make sense for this problem. So since we're talking gigs of data, let's use D for data. Now, the other thing that we're talking about in this problem is the cost of the plan. So that's going to be my other variable. So my other variable is the cost of the plan. And let's use red for that. So cost for the month. So because it's cost, let's use C. Okay, now that I've identified my variables, I'm ready to start talking about my table. So in my table, I'm going to have D for one of them, and I'm going to have C for the other. So this is going to be my data, and this is going to be my cost for the month. So if I use 0 gigs of data, I just have to pay the $10. If I use 1 gig of data, I'm going to have to pay the $10, and then I'm going to have to pay $2.50 for that 1 gig of data. So that ends up being $12.50. Okay, so 2 gigs of data. So remember, each additional gig is just an extra $2.50. So this time, I still have the $12.50 instead, and then I have to add another $2.50 on, so that's actually $15. Okay, so 3 gigs of data, I got to add another $2.50 on, so that's $17.50. 4 gigs of data will give me an even $20. Okay, so now let's talk about the process we used. So the 10 plus $2.50 made sense, but remember, we always have to have the number over here. Let's use a highlighter instead of a pen. We have to have the number over here. Oh my goodness, I am crazy tonight. Let's turn the highlighter on. Okay, there's the highlighter. We need this number inside the equation. So really, what we did is we did 10 plus $2.50 times 1, because there was just 1 gig of data we needed. So this was times 1. Okay, so this time we did $2.50 again, but we actually didn't do $2.50 once. We did $2.50 twice. Okay, and remember, this should be a pattern. So we have 10 plus $2.50 times 1, 10 plus $2.50 times 2. This time we had $2.50 3 times. So $2.50 times 3. So this one must be 10 plus $2.50 times 4. And if we go the other way, this first one was actually 10 plus $2.50, but we didn't pay that at all. So it was times 0. Okay, so the last one is going to be D. Okay, and our cost is going to be C. And to get it, remember, this number over here has to be in our equation. So we're going to follow the same pattern, and then we're just going to put D in the place there. So we've got 10 plus $2.50, and instead of times a number, this time it's times D. Okay, now if we're putting together our ordered pairs, we just look at the D column and the C column. So I've got 0, 10, I've got 1, $12.50, 2, $15, 3, $17.50, for $20. Okay, so I'm going to use those ordered pairs to now graph it. But before I can graph, remember I got to name what, oh my goodness, what did I just do? I need to name what the sides of the table are, or sides of the graph are. So this time it was D on the x-axis, which is our gigs of data. So this is gigs of data. And then the other variable was our total cost, and that was in dollars. I'm going to put down that it was in dollars. Oops. Okay, so I got to choose what I want to count by. So in the gigs of data, remember we always start at 0, and then I'm going to build from there. So let's do 1, 2, and let me zoom in so that we can see this better, so I can write it better. Okay, so let's zoom in. Okay, so there's 0, 1, here's 2, here's 3, here's 4, here's 5, and it can keep going. And then my money, I had 10, 12, 50, 15, so I just got to choose what I want to count by. So why don't we count by 5s? So 5, 10, 15, 20, 25. Okay, and it can keep going. So now that I have this, and I apologize, my handwriting's so terrible on here. I don't have a pen. I'm going to plot the points that I have. So at 0, it cost me $10. So that's the first point I'm going to plot. So 0, $10 is there. Okay. 1, 12.50 is right about there. Ooh, this is terrible. Let me zoom in. So 0, 10 was my first one. So 0, 10. Okay. It's not going to be beautiful. Picture me plotting this, okay? I plotted it all. Aren't you impressed? So make sure you plot it, okay? And then the last thing I need to do is I need to do my algebraic rule. So my algebraic rule, I always steal from the table. So I'm just going to go to the table and I'm going to take it. So D equals 10 plus 250. Oh, it's not D equals. I'm so sorry, you guys. It's, oh, let's see. I'm stealing it from the table, and it's actually C equals 10 plus 250 D times D. Okay, and if I want to do function notation, it's the function of the number of gigs of data. So function of D is 10 plus 250 times D. So I've done my sentence section, I've done my numerical, I've done my algebraic rule, and my graphical. The only part I haven't done is this concrete model right now. I can't model a cell phone plan, so I'm not going to bother. If it was something we were talking about like a cake or a pattern or the rim around a pool, that's when I would draw a picture. For this one, it doesn't make sense to draw a picture. Hopefully this helped. Let me know if it didn't. I will help you further.